Welcome to the Stuff and Things Podcast, your home for all stuff related to your favorite things in entertainment. Now, here are your hosts.
Welcome to the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Thank you, Rocket, and hello everybody. Welcome to our podcast discussing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I am Sam, and it's just the two of us today, but unusually, it's not Stefan joining me, it's the Marvel superfan herself, it's Kayleigh.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm just staring at the rain out the window. How depressing.
Well, it's summer. I mean, you'll know this. We have a saying here in Bristol, England, which is, if you look across the Severn and you can see Wales, it's going to rain. If you can't see Wales, it's raining. Hey, it works.
It does.
So Stefan's not here today, which he's a little bit sad about because he loved this film. It's kind of ironic and sad for him. He's not very well, but he'll be better soon. And it is one of these things where we watched this film at the cinema, all of us, some time ago, and we kind of in that quandary of, do you record now when not everybody's gone to see it or everyone's seen it, or do you wait until it hits Disney Plus and streaming? We were caught in two minds. Now, Ant-Man 3, and we waited, and not very many people listened, and we were not sure if that was just Ant-Man 3, not many people liked it, or whether it's because we waited. So this is the test. If not many people listen to this one as well, then in future we'll watch it at the cinema, and within a couple of weeks we'll put the show out. If this one hits the figures the others used to, then we're just going to write it down that Ant-Man 3 really wasn't very popular. Which I think there's a good chance that could be it, by the way.
Do you know, though, the other day I was on the train going to London for work, and I will always download random stuff to watch on the train because he wants to work on a train.
Yep.
And I downloaded from Disney Plus the making of Ant-Man.
Oh, okay.
And I hadn't watched it. I just thought, it's an hour. It'll keep me entertained for a little while. And after watching it, it completely changed my perception of the film to the point where I'm actually going to go back and watch it again this week.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
I it's kind of funny because I say this as someone who does a podcast, right? But have you noticed over the years, and I don't know whether this is just because of podcasts becoming so popular, studios wanted to jump on it, but more and more TV shows and more films, like the streaming services, have companions with them, like making of or talking about, where they interview the cast and stuff. And I had a conversation with one of my friends a while back, an older lady, who said to me, if you cannot tell me a story in 2 hours that I understand, and I have to watch a documentary afterwards to get it, you've done it wrong.
I completely agree with that. I love making of stuff because I'm nosy and I like
me too.
to learn.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too. But I do think that point's valid, though. It's like you just said then, and I'll watch that now. I didn't realise that was available. And maybe that would have the same impact on me, but I do stand by that statement, and I couldn't agree with her more, which is because we do a lot of the Walking Dead podcasts, and we just break down the show, talk about it. But they came out of a show called The Talking Dead. Now, when that started, you'd watch the episode, and it was quite kind of intense, that show. So The Talking Dead was kind of like, okay, everyone decompress, it's not real. You're fine,
Yeah.
You just saw that guy get his head smashed in. Here he is, don't worry. And it kind of made sense and had good viewing figures, and I was kind of like, oh, this is quite watchable. Yeah, this is actually quite a good thing. You kind of watch this, hold your breath for 30 minutes, and then, okay, this is better. But by season 5 and 6, they were getting the showrunners and stuff on there basically to explain what just happened. And I'm like, yeah, you're doing it wrong. if I'm watching an episode or something and then you've got to explain it afterwards for me to even remotely understand it, you're doing it wrong.
Too convoluted.
Yeah, you're just not getting your point across, and if you are, it's so convoluted. But anyway, which brings us to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It's funny, Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'll tell you why. And I may have talked about this a long time ago with Stefan, but definitely not with you. So I'm going to say it to you. And if anyone's listening, it's like, I've heard this, Sam, or you're hearing it again. When Guardians of the Galaxy was announced in the MCU as a film, I genuinely did a massive eye roll and went, oh, here we go. Shark being jumped. This is going to be weird. How can you, everything's been so grounded on Earth. Everything's been kind of, this is unreal heroes with abilities, but, grounded in reality. It's like a real world, but all this stuff's happening. And now we're going to jump into space and it's going to be, whatever. Now, I didn't know the characters at all or anything. So when I watched the first film, I went into it with that level of skepticism of, this is going to be crap. And I absolutely loved it. From all the characters to the soundtrack. I mean, I think I watched it, then downloaded the soundtrack within minutes of the film ending. It was everything about it I absolutely loved. And the second one, the second one I went into it with a kind of, this is, I'm looking forward to this. And I enjoyed it, really enjoyed it. I thought, again, cast, the characters, everything was brilliant. So we get to the third one, and Ant-Man 3 has recently come out. Now, Ant-Man 1, I enjoyed. I thought it was very funny, a very kind of, had serious moments, but had a real kind of humour to it. Everything I like about MCU films. Ant-Man 2, I don't think was as good, but I still really enjoyed it. And, Agent Woo was in it. There was an element to it that was good, and we got introduced to the Wasp and other things. So when I went to the third one, I was, really looking forward to it. And I genuinely was quite disappointed. I didn't enjoy Ant-Man 3. Bits of it, but not overall. So going in the Guardians 3, I was nervous. there were definite, and I don't know about you, and I will ask you on this. There's been sort of like projects like this stuff, and I've enjoyed it, and there's bits and pieces, but there's just been, with the films, the series and stuff, I actually probably like it more, but the films I've just been feeling like they've just missed. Like Thor 4, which I love saying, Thor 4, I felt really missed. Like, there's stuff in it that's hilarious and brilliant, but I just felt the whole tone of the film was off. And Ant-Man 3 was the same. So when it came to this, I was a little bit nervous. What about you? How were you going into it? Were you just like, it's Guardians, it's going to be good? Or was there an element of, please don't mess this up?
It's probably a bit of both. I mean, you know my feelings on the Guardians. They are just my favourite, and it's the Guardians 1 and 2, and now the Christmas special are films that I will watch on a regular basis. If I'm doing something, it'll be on in the background. It's one of my go-to kind of franchises of films. But I was also, like you, slightly worried because we went down this weird little path with some of the other recent ones. However, I wasn't that worried because I genuinely knew that whatever happened, it would be amazing. Okay. And I hate to say it, but as much as I love this film and I adored every single second of it, in the same vein as Black Panther 2, it's going to take me a long time to be able to rewatch this film.
Oh, okay. So there was the next thing I was going to come on to, which is, I don't think you're shy about admitting this. You can get very emotionally attached, and you live these films. When you're in the moment, you're in the moment. Is that fair to say? And
absolutely.
And you feel the characters' pains, the joys.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things I felt this film did brilliantly, and we are just going to jump around discussing it, by the way. I'm not going to break it down scene by scene for everybody, but one of the things this film did was, in the build-up to it, they kind of allowed the internet to run wild with people are dying, characters are dying. And I think the cast kind of played that a little bit. Yeah. I think the trailers definitely gave us that. And we were all left with this. We know it's the finale. We know a lot of the actors are done. We know James Gunn is done, and a lot of them have said, we're not revisiting this without him, and he's left, so that's it. We knew that Dave Bautista, a.k.a. Drax the Destroyer, had really fallen out with Disney. So I think everyone going into this were actually not, someone might die, but who and how many. Yeah. It was like it wasn't a debate.
Yeah.
So during the film, I found, and I'll admit this right now, I found several times where I was like swallowing hard, choked, thinking, "Oh no, this is the moment we lose Rocket. This is the
Yeah.
moment we lose Drac. This is the moment we lose Mantis. This is the moment
Yeah.
we lose Peter." Even I genuinely thought he was
Yeah.
gone. I
Yeah.
thought, what an incredible switch they've done, that he is going to sacrifice himself at the end. You're like, oh wow,
Yeah.
no one saw that. Like, I never saw anyone predict that happening. So, how are you doing with that? Because if it hit me, it must have been an absolute roller coaster for you.
Yeah. Oh my! Again, I go with Logan,
Yeah,
my eldest, to every film, and he we went in the credits went at the beginning,
yeah,
and it was all Guardians. It wasn't the kind of traditional
no,
Marvel opening credits, which to me, like Black Panther, like one of the Iron Man films, signals that this is going to be
a conclusion.
whatever happens
Yeah.
is going to be big for them to make that change.
Yeah,
So from the second it started, I'm sat there an absolute shivering wreck, and Logan's absolutely wetting himself. And then you see the song at the beginning, even that just set me up as the tone for what's to come. And the whole time I'm almost watching through my fingers, like, oh my God, I don't want to see this, like, what's coming? Like a shivering wreck, and Logan's kind of shrinking into his seat, like, for God's
I'm not
sake.
with her. I'm not with her,
Yeah.
everyone. This lady sat next to me. Someone call security.
And my uncle, who again is a huge Marvel fan,
Yeah.
and we have a very similar group chat to like the three of us do. We overanalyze every single thing.
Excellent. Good.
And he'd been to see it before I had, and he went with a couple of guys from work. Now,
Yeah.
Martin is 6 foot, big,
Yeah.
karate champion. He's a man's man, if you're allowed to say that.
Yeah.
And he texted me and he said, "It broke me."
Get ready.
Yeah, and I
no.
thought, oh, sugar. Oh Christ. And he said, but I held it together because I was with people from work, and I'm thinking, oh, no. So that, even just walking through the door and seeing the posters around the cinema.
Well, I think I said to you as well, because I think I saw it before you, and I think even I said to you, it got me. It just but I think they just did it so well. So you open up. I'll tell you what. We'll start with the one thing that I thought was not what I expected. I'm not being critical of it, but it's just not what I expected at all. And that was Adam Warlock. I had a real idea in my head based on what I knew of that character and what I thought that character was going to be. And in reality, he was just a ridiculously powerful moron.
Moron is a great word. Mine was, I can't remember what I called him now. It was something along the lines of, he's a bumbling idiot or Wally. It was a bit, but I think it sets him up really, really well. And I wasn't expecting his storyline to go the way that it did.
No.
I thought it was going to be something completely different.
Same.
But it was very good, and I absolutely love him. I think he's so funny.
Well, the actor's incredible. The actor who played, anyone who's ever seen the film We Are the Millers.
Oh my God.
His performance in that leaves me dying. Even though I know the lines are coming because I've seen it before, I got tears coming down my face. The kid's brilliant.
Absolutely incredible kind of comedic talent. And I think I thought I was going to get more of that. And you kind of did, but it was in this kind of buffoon kind of way.
I was going to say, I don't think... first of all, just kudos. The physical transformation the guy got to become Adam Warlock, wow, phenomenal.
Yeah. He had a glow up, 100%. In more than one sense.
All right, easy. Steady. God. So, that I just think, wow, fair play, well done, that's commitment. 2, to be that committed, like to create that, I think again, that in my head put this kind of, it's going to be a very serious villain kind of character. It's going to be a real strong depth. To do that with the commitment to, I'm going to be a bumbling moron, basically the background to the film, but then maybe I can, maybe there'll be a path forward. But
Yeah.
I'm a numpty. You have got to be good. You have got to be good, because it could have missed. That character could have missed so hard. And I actually, like I said a minute ago, I'm not being critical of it, but I was not expecting that. And the more I thought about it, and I'm going to watch it again. When I do watch it again, I'll probably make my mind up more. But at the moment, the more I thought about it, the more I think it really worked.
It did, and it could have gone the complete opposite way.
Yeah. You don't get someone who can be endearing in that, which he is. You know, you look at the size he is.
That is the word. Yeah.
You look at the size, the way he's transformed himself. So the size he is, the look of the character, the actions of the character. You know, basically nearly killing Rocket, trying to kill everyone, to remain endearing. So at the end of it, when he's part of the team, you're kind of like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he was lost, didn't understand what was going on. You know, and someone's taking him under the wing, which is what the Guardians kind of all of is about, which is they're all misfits.
Yeah.
And we're all coming together to be greater than our individual parts.
And there's more than just the misfit piece for me, though. Yes, they're like a ragtag team of, you know, random people from across space. But actually, when you look at them on a less superficial level, it's all about loss.
Yeah. And
it's all about them regaining something after that loss. Drax with his family, Mantis has always been alone, Peter lost his mum, Gamora, you know, everything. And Adam ties really well into that kind of underlying story, because he loses his mum, and that's his turning point. So
no, you're not wrong. And
it's very, very well written, and it's
like we plan this sometimes, and I'm very proud of you. Me pointing it out makes it clear to everyone we don't. But talking of loss, in this film, there is a very strong story and background to Rocket. I was not prepared for that.
No.
And because it's funny, because ahead of the film, you kind of get people like, oh, you know, we understand there's going to be a lot about Rocket's background, and the main villain of the piece, if you like, is because of that, and that's the tie-in. So you're kind of like, oh, okay, we're going to learn a little bit about how Rocket became who he is.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for Teefs.
Oh, no.
And Rocket's, I mean, I don't know about you, but I watched all of those scenes, and I'm one of those people that sometimes when you're doing flashbacks and stuff, I've got to say, oh, you know, you can lose me in those moments.
You don't like them, we know.
Yeah, this, not at all.
Yeah.
I'm watching this, like the High Evolutionary and what he's doing, and I'm watching these, in essence, animated CGI characters, and just kind of like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?
And that's it. Like, how on earth can a 30-something-year-old, fairly well-rounded human be so attached and so emotionally involved in something that isn't even real?
No.
You have a character with a human actor, fine. But an actual animatronic, CGI'd thing that isn't even remotely human or alive make me feel so...
Well... Sorry. How did you feel the scene with Lila's death?
Well, I was a mess, obviously.
Well, I guess that might have been the case, but I wanted to really highlight it.
Obviously. And again, you know, for the 20 minutes of screen time that she had, for her to be so entrenched in Rocket's whole story, and for me to feel that way about her so quickly, honestly, it baffles me how they managed to do this to me every bloody time with these made up people. Like, oh my God, no. And you know what's worse?
Yeah.
In the same way, like you become a parent, and everything to do with kids hits you differently.
Oh yes.
Now, I've never been an animal person at all.
Nope.
I had a cat when I was a kid, and when it died, I swore off animals because I was so traumatized that I'd never have a pet again.
Yep.
Less than a year ago, we get this bloody dog.
I know.
And not anything to do with animals, I'm a rat.
Yeah.
It just hits different. And I think if I hadn't had Penny, or hadn't got Penny, maybe it would have been different. But I really don't think it was.
I don't think so. So Lila was actually voiced by someone who has played a live action role in the MCU.
He was.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I love, by the way. I think that's so clever.
Yeah.
And it's such a good way to kind of bring more people in for more roles.
Voiced by Linda Cardellini, I think that's her name. Who, of course, plays Hawkeye's wife.
Laura Barton.
Who was an agent herself. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Then we also have Teeths and Floor.
Teeth and Floor. How we came up with that name was just the cutest thing. I'm sat on the floor, so I'm going to be Floor.
Yeah, I'm going to be Floor. But it was, I don't know, I think it was the innocence of it and the kind of... Yeah. Just the... Yeah, there was something that just became so ridiculously endearing. And we knew Rocket as a character, and seeing this version of this clear genius, you know, they managed to strike gold with whatever they did with him, and him with the others, and his interaction was just so lovely. And so, because you're used to Rocket just being a bit snarly, a bit kind of get out of my face, prickly.
You know why now? Because
and you do, yeah.
And that trauma of losing his first family made him defensive and put those walls up. So you get it. And actually, if anyone hasn't, I did this recently, go back and watch Guardians 1.
Yeah.
And it hits so different.
It does,
I watched that and I'm crying. And I've never cried at Volume 1 because I'm thinking about what's happened in 3.
Well, it's it, because there's I think right at the end of 1 when they basically come together as a team, and I think there's a scene in a bar where he's screaming, he calls me this thing I didn't ask to be made.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wow, yeah, that hits different now.
Yeah. And, you know, when he goes to gets an eye or an arm, and he's like, well, I'll have that. And then you think, oh, my God, he's getting that for Lila, and he's getting this. It's just completely different.
Yeah, everything is, different. And, you know, it goes from just being a throwaway comedy to, oh, there's a reason he's doing this. Oh, God.
Yeah, because I just thought, you know, when I watched 1, he's collecting body parts because he's absolutely batshit crazy. But it's not.
No, it's not, which is so much worse.
But
if you want to diffuse yourself from that emotion, James Gunn, to help everybody, released clips of the actual filming of it. So you get to see all the people in the CGI suits. That really helps. that really helps sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, they're fine. Everyone's fine.
Yeah.
the animated
do Rocket.
The guy who plays Rocket on the screen is James Gunn's brother, Sean.
Yeah, Sean Gunn.
Sean Gunn. Yeah, he does a lot of that across lots of different platforms. So for this, he plays Quaglin. And what did you think of Quaglin, by the way? Basically being a full-on Guardian. I know we saw it in the Christmas special, but at the end of 2, obviously he gets the headpiece and you know that. But for him to be like full-on Guardian, I kind of like that. I kind of liked Quaglin as a character throughout all of them.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I love Sean Gunn anyway. I used to watch him in something when I was younger, and he was always, you know, just this cute little
Gilmore
weirdo.
Girls.
Yeah. That whole kind of arc of him, you know, starting a mutiny and then apologising, and the whole thing with Yondu, and he's found his place, and I'm so happy. You know, he's the one character that's been, you know, very constant, slightly in the background, sometimes putting a foot forward,
and I like that.
And then he gets his at the end. I loved it.
So you're talking about pets. Talk about you've got a dog now.
Yes.
there is a dog in this.
There is a dog in this, and he's so cute.
Quaglin calls it a bad dog, and the reaction had me in stitches. No, you take that back. Take that back. And he's like, no, I'm not taking it back. The dog goes from anger to pleading to like trying to do everything he can to please his master. Eventually he gets told, good dog, and
the smile.
It's ridiculous.
Exactly how I imagine Penny when I tell her she's being a knobhead, and she's like, "Oh, sorry."
You see the ears go. And like, It's like,
because I actually noticed before we went to see this film, there was posts obviously going around on social media, and across all media actually, as almost like a warning, you know, if you are a genuine, serious pet lover, go into this with caution. And I've never had that in a film before, but I get it.
I think you might come away from it thinking, what the hell? A little this happened in the Christmas special and continued into this, is this amazing relationship between Mantis and Drax.
Yeah.
And Drax as a character could so easily be one-dimensional. Like, just really, Drax the Destroyer. Even the name makes it like this should just be a Hulk-style smash type character in this group. When you understand that it was a professional wrestler playing it as well, you've got a very one-dimensional idea of what this character is.
Mm-hmm.
I think straight away Dave Bautista is a far more talented actor than anybody could have foreseen, except for maybe James Gunn, who met him and cast him.
Yeah.
Because in this film, like, genuinely, and the funny thing is, I'm a wrestling fan, so I knew him from that background. So for me to see his transition is kind of insane. But in this film, to stay within as Drax, so he hasn't changed. Like, Drax hasn't suddenly gone, hey everybody, I'm Drax now. You know, he hasn't changed that. He's still the way he speaks, still the kind of doesn't get a lot of what people are saying. And there was a scene where I think, who was it having a go at him? Blue Meanie, can't think of her name.
Nebula.
Thank you. Nebula's having a go at him. And Mantis steps up, and I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, this really hits. Like, this is actually really quite... It's like, you know, he just doesn't get it sometimes, but he's always there for us. He's never... And you're like, oh, wow. And then you see him, like, genuinely hurt, because they all think he's a moron. So she takes it away for him. And then he just walks off all triumphant. And all I could think about is how many times has she probably done that for him?
Yeah.
How many times is she just because she loves him? How many times is she like, he's suddenly had this moment of realization? She's like, no, you know, you're okay. You know, don't let people hurt you.
And she does it knowing that A, he probably doesn't know that she's done that, and B, probably wouldn't appreciate or understand why she's done that. You know, she's so selfless, and that's the whole point of Mantis, isn't it?
It is.
And their whole dynamic is, it's just lovely, and it's always been lovely. And it's the way he talks to her, and you know, he says, I'm ugly. You know, you're not ugly. Oh, you know, and it's just so natural and so innocent and so cute. You don't get that anywhere else in the MCU. You really don't. No. And that's why. I mean, they're kind of ring-fenced films anyway, aren't they? But
they are to a point, definitely. I mean, obviously they appeared in the Avengers and stuff, but they don't overtly link heavily within their films. But
and I think that's what sets them apart. They're completely different to Natasha and Bruce and you know, the other kind of natural pairings that you get in the MCU. And I just think it's so well done.
The Mantis character as well is another thing. I love the fact she evolved. So you first meet her, she's shy, she's timid, she doesn't really know what's going on, and then, you know, by the time we hit the Christmas special in this, she's got her angry voice, which, you know, is, you know, Kevin Bacon, you know, it's like, oh my God, you're terrifying, Mantis.
Yeah, but that's the thing, you know, it's always the quiet ones. Once they get a taste of that voice, and they can stop repressing that feeling.
Always watch the quiet ones in every sense. In every sense of the word.
But even her ending, you know, at the end of this film, I'm so pleased that that's the direction that they took for her. She went off and she's kind of made this conscious decision to be like, I know who I am, but I need to know more. And I cannot do that. But I'll be back. You know, I'll always come back. But you need to give me this moment of self-reflection.
I got it, and I kind of like you know, she's never been alone. You know, she was literally created for Ego, and then she's gone from Ego to being with the Guardians, Peter, and she kind of has this moment where, okay, this is my chance to see who I am by myself, but you know, I'm a Guardian. I'm gonna be, you know, don't you worry, I'll be back, and I just need to go and do this. So, the only thing that was kind of bittersweet for me on that is I'd love to see Mantis again in some capacity, and I hope we do. I hope that isn't her signing off, because she is such an interesting character, and and it just like again in the Christmas special, I mean, she was the star of that for me, and just her. When she arrived on Earth and there were people cosplaying as like Steve and stuff, she was Steve, like runs at him like they're best friends.
Funny. Yeah.
So
ultimately, she's Peter's sister, and we know that he's going to be back. So it makes sense that brother and sister are back together.
So you said that, so it's a natural thing. Were you surprised by that? Because obviously all the talk going into it was this: Guardians are done. It's done. We're dusted. Thank you very much. In the future maybe, but this is it. We won't be back as a group again. So when it came up, Star-Lord or whatever it was it the amazing Star-Lord will return? Yeah. I was surprised. I genuinely like, oh wow, that caught me off guard.
Yeah, so that really surprised me. In terms of the Guardians overall, yes, this kind of the third one was James Gunn's swan song, and it was perfect, and it was. You cannot do any more with this group.
Agreed.
I kind of went in thinking, okay, so we've seen how naturally in any comic book team, superhero team, you always get different iterations. So I don't know huge amounts of details about the other Guardians groups, but that's kind of what I was hoping. We'll get the new Avengers and we'll get the young Avengers. Maybe we'll get the new Guardians, which is ultimately what I think we see.
We do, yeah.
And Peter is separate from that. I don't think we'll get another Guardians movie in any way, shape or form, but I think there will be other team ups, and then we'll see this new group doing their own thing perhaps. I'd like maybe a series.
Well, we know Peter's on Earth now, and I'm kind of
how long for?
Well, yeah, exactly, and I kind of have this image of when Earth has a problem, you're going to be calling on your people. You're going to be bringing people together, the Avengers, everyone to come together to try and fight. We know we have some of those coming up. Yeah. And I'm just kind of wondering if that's where we're going to see him brought back.
I would love to see him with Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh, can you? Oh no, that's just what a.
I just think
the two actors.
They're so funny, and they're just so alike. They're just. I think that would be brilliant, like Dumb and Dumber. But
I'd love to watch just the press tour of those two, because that'd be.
It away first.
You'd need to put Marvel would need to put an adult with them. They would need to have someone responsible.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, Tom Holland would just give away the entire film with Chris Pratt encouraging him to get him in trouble, just for fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that did surprise me. What did you think? Because we're just talking about it, the end scene where he goes, his grandfather's still alive, and he goes back to see him. It's kind of like one of those silly things where it's like, well, yeah, I suppose he could be, this was. And then of course we then find out that his grandfather nearly died in Guardians 2. Did you see this?
No.
So in Guardians 2, there's a moment where Ego starts this plant on all the planets. And on Earth, you see this massive thing expanding, and a car gets pushed up in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that car is Peter's grandfather.
No way. I didn't know that.
Nope, I completely missed it. I've watched that film 10 times maybe, and I've never seen it. And then I saw someone show a clip of it the other day, and I was like, oh, wow, okay.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, should have, yeah. His grandfather's in the car, so... Peter saved him that day, but he had no idea.
No, see, this is why I love everything Marvel, because no matter how many times you watch something, no matter how old something gets, there is always something somewhere that you've missed. Yeah. And you always you go back and watch it again. And that is a very clever tactic in itself. Like, how many times am I going to go back and watch this to find something new?
You cunning buggers, yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that, but it did take me a little minute to just kind of process, because in my mind, going back to the scenes where we see him when his mum dies, I feel like he should be a lot older than that right now, but I guess he's probably in his 50s, early 60s.
I was going to
at
say
that point.
probably his 50s when those scenes. So that was the late 70s, wasn't it? That Peter's taken. So he would have been in his 50s then. So 60s, 70s, 80s. No, yeah. So yeah, he's kicking on.
Yeah, it took me a little while to kind of comprehend that actually this is the right grandfather, like his mum's dad, because obviously he's not going to be his dad's dad, because that's what I thought, and I was like, no, that can't be. So it was just the age timeline thing kind of threw me slightly, which
I did.
But again, I liked seeing him in the newspaper at the end. I almost wet myself.
Yeah, that was good. The newspaper, that was such a subtle little of that. And him just talking about mowing the lawn. It's like, oh my God, you've just gone from saving the galaxy repeatedly to I'm going to mow the grass. Yeah,
going to mow the grass. But that is ultimately, I think, whilst he had his found family, maybe somewhere in the background he wants that mundaneness of everyday life. For a very short time.
Because he feels, and that's going to be the funny. That to me is going to be the funny thing, which is, he is going to be fully embracing a 9 to 5. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to get a job at the local, Walmart or something, and then he is going to get bored, And I like you, like almost like a series or something. I'd love that. I think that'd be very funny and very good. Just him. Okay, I just want mundane. I just want this, and then within a week, I'm bored.
Yeah. What can I do to supercharge my car and get it off the ground? And,
exactly.
Not burglar, I'm coming for you. Yeah.
I think we can't possibly do a podcast and chat about the Guardian, because we're talking about all of the characters, all the story. It's so good and there's so much emotional depth throughout it. But I think we also have to pay a massive tribute to the fact that I feel that Guardians have nailed probably the best villain I've seen in the MCU for quite some time. The High Evolutionary was equal parts terrifying at times, but also had that ruthlessness to what he was doing that it felt like there were real stakes all the time. It genuinely felt like characters we love could be killed by this guy.
Yeah.
And you need that for to take an emotional journey, which they did. You do need that. So I want to just say the actor did an incredible job. He was
brilliant.
So good. So
that
good.
Could have been very hit and miss. But like you say, you've got that immediate threat and that underlying dark terrifyingness of this guy with a god. I mean, they've all got a bloody god complex, haven't they? These villains.
Do,
yes. But this is next level.
Yeah. This
genetically engineering,
creating worlds. God. He is literally playing God, and then he decides, I've had enough of this, and then destroys it again, killing. I mean, I think Peter said millions were on that planet, and he just wiped them out.
Yeah.
He is just very interesting to me, that character, because one of the things I like with villains and a lot of stuff is, okay, I can understand your point of view. Yeah, like Thanos. Thanos was mass murdering half the galaxy. The reason he was doing it made sense. but why? Your methodology here needs work, Thanos. This isn't...
Yeah.
You could click and just double the resources, dude. You don't
Problem
need,
solved, mate. Yeah. Problem solved, yeah.
Yeah, so he but you could look at that, and one of the things I quite enjoyed with the MCU projects post Thanos was a few people like graffiti Thanos was right in the MCU.
Yeah.
And I always thought, that's really interesting, because I like the idea that there is probably a subculture of people, almost like a cult, like, when all those people come back, it got bad again. When they were gone, things were quite good. There was no traffic. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like real selfish crap. But I guarantee you, there would be people who feel that way. I remember during COVID, and I kept seeing friends who did delivery driving just complimenting how easy it was driving around because no one could leave their houses.
Yeah.
I was thinking, you selfish bastard. But I get it.
But the High Evolutionary was next level. This isn't him trying to save a portion of humanity. It, like Thanos was in his twisted way. This is about him getting power and creating this kind of... It almost felt a bit like Hitler-esque, you know, like trying to create this
Master
super
race. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, it was to the line. I think it was done far enough.
Yep.
I think if they'd have taken it a step beyond, it would have ruined it.
Yep.
But the fact that he then created this thing because he's so intelligent, so clever, so masterful, that threatened him.
Yeah.
That's a great arc for me. That is a great villain story.
It was.
Beyond already being a villain.
Yeah. No, I agree. That was, and the fact he was then hunting Rocket down because he was unable to recreate it. It was like, it was his greatest success and greatest failure all rolled into one.
Yeah.
Because it was like the embodiment of not being able to do that again was driving him insane.
Yes.
And that was just so interesting and so beautifully acted, because again, like you said, this character could have missed so easily. It could have just been very over the top and very kind of, you know, with the kind of stretched face, you know, the Hollywood facelift, as I call it, you know, the stretched face and all of that. It could have been so easy to just be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. You know, you're kind of hanging on his words because you're thinking, oh, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna say?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a very clever moment towards the end when Rocket takes his face off.
Yeah.
And you see the damage that's left behind.
Yeah.
And that's the real him. And as a man, he hates that he's not perfect.
Yeah.
And it's all driven. This whole thing is driven by ego.
Yeah.
Not
Peter's dad. Yeah.
Not Donald's dad. Actual vain, ego, man stuff. I don't know how to phrase this.
All right, easy. Come on now. Yeah.
Yeah. But that and the fact that he kind of ripped the shield off, and for him to then have to face himself as being this thing that isn't perfect was just chef's kiss. Perfect.
It's a very difficult thing when you realise as a man that you're not perfect. You know, the mirror has lied to you all these years. Because if you're, this is so stupid. There's a thing of Homer Simpson looking in the mirror, and he looks in the mirror, and obviously he's overweight. Homer Simpson. He looks in the mirror, and he's this muscle banged Adonis with long hair. And there's actually nothing more accurate than that with most guys, which you sort of, everyone else sees the way, you know, balding, you know, overweight, whatever, getting older, and you look in the mirror and it's like, hey, look at you handsome devil, look at you. It's unbelievable. It makes no sense. But every now and again, you'll catch a reflection or see a picture and you're like, oh no, oh crap, yeah, years have hit. Oh damn.
Yeah, but it was that I think that again was a very good way to depict that smart ego. Yeah.
The kind of final battle, as it were, because Rocket's been revived. Just to touch on that very quickly, how did you do with the emotion of that? Because there's a moment where Rocket wakes, and he's like, "Where's Nebula?" And they're like, "Oh," and he's like, "'Cause she's calling." You know, straight away he's practical. Rocket's back. Like, straight away I'm like, you will not notice in the big blinking light. And then you get to see the reaction of Mantis, Drax, and Nebula that he's alive. How were you doing at that moment? Because that was one of the moments I went, I'm okay, I'm good.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know how much detail I can go into because I don't actually think I saw or registered any of it through the tears.
Fair. That's fine. I had a feeling that could be the case, but I just want to ask.
Honestly, you know, because there's been so many up until that point,
near misses,
and so many moments where you think, "Oh my God, this is it!"
Yeah.
And the build-up, the relief and the release of the water from my eyes.
Yes.
Just like the whole cinema, it was palpable in the cinema. You could feel everyone just release collectively this breath that they'd been holding that they didn't know that they were holding.
No, that's the worst. Like, why am I purple? Yeah.
To make an entire I mean, there was not a seat in that cinema, and we were in the big screen. To make an entire room of hundreds of people collectively at the same second.
Yeah.
Do that is absolutely incredible.
It's art. I mean, you know, filmmaking is art, and to do stuff like that is incredible. To capture that emotion and to capture people's imagination collectively like that, because that was one cinema, one screen, but that reaction would have been every cinema screen, every cinema complex across the whole world.
Yeah, and it annoys me that on that, you know, it annoys me that some people, obviously not me, but some people will look at this whole genre and look down on it. You know, oh, this is, you know, it's not intelligent, it's not this. Actually, that 10-20 seconds of film impacted me more than maybe an hour and a half of an entire kind of historical drama ever would. So get your head out your ass and, you know, appreciate Marvel for what it is.
The Marvel superfan has spoken. Get your head out of your ass. I'm clipping that. That's going to be your new text alert on my phone. Get your head out your ass.
Get your head out of your ass.
I like it. Yeah, definitely. I think there's a money-making thing in there, definitely. If you'd like that as your ringtone, text. So I had to explain to my daughter recently that we used to have to buy ringtones her face. It's like, what?
I had to explain to Logan that we used to type them in using number codes we downloaded off the internet. Do you remember?
Yeah, definitely. I remember the day I got the code for Axel F. Oh, that took me an hour. Worth it.
God, we're so old.
And I'm so old. Yeah. And moving on very quickly. So yeah, the kind of final scene then, the action, everything that's going on, we touched earlier on about the Peter near miss and everything, but I think, you know, just very recently, She-Hulk made the joke about her Marvel's formulaic, and, you know, you have these big action sequences and there's no real stakes, and a few projects since then, people have kind of, Marvel, you've made fun of yourself here, but then you've carried on doing it. I think there's a very easy demonstration here of when it's done right, nobody will notice that. When you miss, people are going to go, oh, it's the formula. It's what you do. It's, you know, here's a bad guy, here's a problem, we solve it, here's the battle, and away we go. Big action sequence. But when you nail it, when you're emotionally invested, when you are watching it with stakes, you genuinely believe you could lose people. Think of Endgame. You knew people were going to go. You knew it. And in this, you knew, even though it didn't transpire that way, you kind of had it in your head, oh, we're definitely losing people. And it was because the whole film built to this kind of climactic. And then when you saw Peter go out there to say, and you were thinking, they've swerved us.
This is it. He's done.
We've all been speculating Rocket, Drax, and it's going to be Peter.
Yeah.
And they took it to that final second. Like, literally, you just reached the point where he's not being saved. He's definitely dead.
Yeah.
You just hit it, and boom, they pulled him out of the fire. And you're like, oh, wow,
yeah.
Oh, I'm breathing again.
For me, there was almost something, if that had have happened.
Yeah.
And in the moment, this is genuinely what was going through my head. If that had happened in the way that we were all expecting it to happen, there would have been something almost kind of beautiful and cathartic about it, because it kind of, it just really solidifies his relationship with Yondu and the impact that he had on him, and those selfless, let me do something right, I'm going to do it.
I think that's what made the moment, because as it was happening, every fan felt, oh, they've switched it. It's going to be Peter, and you believed it because of what you just said. Yeah. Because in your head you're going, this makes sense. Oh my God, no! Why are you doing? It makes perfect sense. It's beautiful, but why are you doing this to me? You know, you're.
Yeah, and that makes it even bloody worse. Yeah, I still haven't forgiven them for Yondu. But
Mary Poppins, y'all. Yeah.
Oh God. But I think, but again, to keep that so quiet and so under wraps.
Yeah, they did very well.
It made it had that such an impact that if we'd have ever thought that Quill was on the list, that wouldn't have hit the same way. No,
agreed. And that was why it was so good. It was so clever. It was so well done. And like I said, you have got all of these thoughts racing through your head in those moments, which is probably 30 seconds of screen time, maybe a minute. and you are just processing it, and you just reach the point of, oh my god, he's gone, you know, and you're just upset, and then boom, they drag him back, and then you're just the relief and the kind of everyone's okay.
Yeah.
And then it kind of hits you like, you bastards.
Yeah. Yeah.
You clever, beautiful, wonderful bastards.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had me. You really had me.
You come out of the film and you're both angry and drained, but happy and gutted, and like all the emotions when I came out of that film.
I got family like you, and family who listen to this podcast as well, so they'll be listening to this, so they'll know who they are, who will message me about Marvel stuff. Like, oh, have you seen Guardian? Yeah, I've seen it. All right, I'm going to be an emotional wreck. I need to know who dies. And I'm like, look, I'm not saying anything. You just got to watch it. And they're like, no, you got to tell me because I need to prepare myself. So I was evil. I said, look, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but it's most of them. All right, so just be prepared. So they went into the film, like, and every time there's a scene like that, they're thinking, oh, this is it. Oh no, this isn't it. But Sam said most of them die. So they said even at the end, when they all seem alright, they're waiting, and then the film ends, and they're like, there's going to be an after credit. And then I got a lot of very grumpy messages.
I bet you did.
You bastard! It's like, well, I didn't want to ruin it for you, in one way or another. Yeah. But if I genuinely though, if I'd said to them, look, everyone's fine, that would have taken something away from that film.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have to go as far as saying that most of them died, because that was probably cruel. But
that was mean.
Yeah, that was mean. I acknowledge that. They know that. But they know me. They should have known better. You don't ask me stuff like that. I'm going to wind you up. It's cruel, but it's me.
But there's still the right level of comedy throughout the whole thing that kind of gave it the perfect balance. There was two really that people might have even missed, but I thought were really well done. One was the multicolored suits.
Yep.
The marshmallow
Very
suits.
funny.
That was just so left of field for me that I wasn't expecting anything like that. And then for them to get sucked into space.
Also with the suits trying to do the intercoms and Peter speaking to everybody and Drax, that must be so embarrassing for you. Just because that's what would happen. I mean, again, we've kind of naturally headed to it. Again, and this is something in the film, not what I was expecting, and this one, I'm not sure about Gamora. I'm not sure how I feel about her story in this film and everything, because we got to know Gamora, we saw her transition, we saw her fall in love with Peter, and we saw that romance, and then we saw her die. We saw a complete arc. It was awful.
Yeah.
When earlier Gamora came back, obviously I think a lot of us had this in our heads of we're going to kind of see a repeat. We're going to kind of see her again become part of the Guardians, fall in love with Peter. You know, we're going to kind of almost see that again, but with the added trouble of him trying to deal with, I love you, you're not my Gamora, etc. And you know, just like that. So for her to just not be interested in that at all, she's a Ravager.
Yeah.
That was strange to me. And again, I'm not being critical of it. I just wasn't what I was expecting.
See, I really liked and appreciated the fact that they didn't just have a moment and she fell in love with him again.
Yeah.
If they'd have done that, I would have been really disappointed.
Okay.
I like the fact we've got 2014 Gamora.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
this just proves I'm far more romantic than you, clearly. This is what it is.
Well, no, there is a method to my madness. There is some logic in there somewhere.
Okay, bring it on.
Essentially, what they went through in 1 and 2 was so deep and so meaningful and so profound for the both of them that there is no way that anyone would have genuinely believed that they could have done that in the space of however long.
I agree with that.
Goes across, and those experiences that they had were one of a kind, once in a lifetime experiences. And if Marvel had just kind of gone, hey, click my finger, she's in love with me again, I would have been fuming, because actually Gamora on her own is absolutely incredible, and she's a badass. She knows who she is. She doesn't take shit from anyone.
Yeah.
She's not going to change herself for a man. And I loved that.
You've
I
gone
loved
militant.
that. Yeah, and I really appreciated that they didn't just do this whole, oh look, they've fallen in love again, because it wouldn't have meant anything.
No,
It really wasn't.
I think from my point of view, it was more that time had passed. So it was the fact that she hadn't been around. You know, it was kind of like we saw in the Christmas special, she wasn't there, but in my head, I had this kind of, they're obviously going to be united at some point, and then it's going to develop again. I'm not saying that it would have been like they've fallen back in love and they're a couple again, but just by the end of the film, I was thinking, okay, there's going to be a spark, and then both of them are going to be like, oh, you know, maybe. But they took that in a completely different direction. Again, not being critical, but I was like, okay. But one of the things that did happen in this, which did raise an eyebrow, but was kind of funny, the way Peter looked at Nebula.
Yeah, that's where I thought it was going to go. I honestly thought that they were going to get together.
Nebula just basically like, no, do not know, do not look at me like that. But
if she let herself go,
yeah.
I think they'll be really good together.
Oh, I think there's a bit of smittenness there. I think both ways.
But she doesn't know what to do with it.
Nope, she has no clue what to do. Her life has basically been torture and murder.
Yeah.
And now she is working as a team and seems to be really embracing that at last. And kind of, it's funny. It's almost, because I saw an interview with the actress, Karen Gillan, who's phenomenal. If you ever get a chance to listen to her, such a funny person and
she's hilarious, yeah.
Really speaks well, you know, about things. And she said she believes the time she spent with Tony Stark impacted her massively.
100%.
She said because they were alone, and she basically got to watch a human didn't want to give up. You know, he was fighting for his life, and she was just watching on like, wow. This is, you know, and she said, like, she said when I was being directed and we were discussing it, it was this kind of, she started taking care of him, not because that was her nature, because it really wasn't, but because she just respected him so much. And the fact that even when he was near death, he was constantly trying to make her happy and be a person that spoke to her like a person.
Yeah.
And didn't speak
and
down
never
to
had
her.
That before.
No, treated her as an equal, asked her for help, was where to help her. There's a scene, I think, where they're playing a game and she wins. And she's so shocked that he goes to shake her hand like, well done, you won. She like recoils from him like, what do you mean I won? I never win.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's just absolutely, and she said it changes her.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting because if you then think about her characterization since then, she is changed. She is very much, I want to be part of this team. I'm actually happy. I want to be a part of this. And the next step might be romantic, and it's just a very funny idea. Just because again, you go back to Endgame, and there's a moment where Gamora sees Peter on the ground after dropping him. It's like, him, really? And she says, "Well, it was a him or a twig, or a tree."
Yeah.
So speaking of the twig and the tree, Groot. No longer baby Groot, no longer teenage Groot, now becoming a full Groot. He's very... James Gunn called him Swole Groot, because he's now built.
Okay.
So, there's something about I Am Groot throughout all of these films that's always made me laugh. And the thing that's always made me laugh is the fact he says 3 words, I am Groot, and everyone responds to him like they've heard a full sentence.
Yeah.
Using Gamora to go, you're all just making this up now, aren't you? Was hilarious. That moment was perfect. It was meta and it was superb because she was basically the audience in that moment, talking to them like, I am Groot. No, we can't do that because we'd have to recalibrate this. We do this. She's like, you're just making this up now. There's no way in those 3 words you heard him say something more.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's explained that when you're part of the family and you're love and you're part of this connection, you actually can understand.
Yeah.
And he says, I am Groot to her, and she turns around and responds to him and then smiles because she finally understood what he meant.
She finally gets him. And it was that moment that genuinely made her leaving even more of a shock.
Yep.
Because I thought she's back, and
but no.
At that point you kind of think you know where it's going,
no,
and you don't.
And but again, like you said, kind of perfect. Kind of kind of really nailed it. She's then back with the Ravagers and happy. But then, of course, we get the moment. Now, I want to know how you dealt with this. Did you process what this meant at the time when you heard "I am Groot," but he actually says "I love you"? Or did it not read? Did you think, "Oh, he's finally said something else"?
No, well, I broke.
Because basically, for anyone who watched the film or anything and weren't sure the significance of that, that was us as the audience being part of the family, and we can now understand him.
We can understand him, and that even now I'm struggling to get the words out.
You okay? You good?
You
good over there?
Oh my God, how embarrassing! Yeah, it was such an overwhelming moment.
It was brilliant.
And it was another kind of moment, and Logan's looking at me thinking, "Shut up, you absolute moron!"
Yeah, please stop, please stop. The lights are going to come up soon. I can't be sat next to you like this. Yeah.
Robin. But it was so beautiful, and it was such a good way for James Gunn, for Marvel, to just that was a thank you for us.
It was perfect. It was very, very good.
And it was I keep saying that it was the perfect moment of the movie, but for me, that was 10 years well spent.
Well spent.
With my Guardians family.
So, are there any other points from this film you wanted to highlight or discuss?
The only thing, and again, something that someone with my kind of level of comedicness found hilarious, was when they were getting in the car.
The first F-bomb, we nearly finished this podcast without mentioning it. The first F-bomb in the MCU, and it was about a fucking door.
But that wasn't the F-bomb itself. It was when he's saying, push the button. Yeah. Push it down. Push the button. Push it down. I was giggling, thinking,
open the fucking door.
That's the kind of thing that I would do, because I'm such a drip. I'm pushing it. No, that's the keyhole. Okay. Yeah. And then I thought, pushing a button is such a significant thing in Guardians. Just stick that in there, just in that throwaway line.
Just was push very the good. Button. Open. And now what do I do? Open the fucking door. Yeah, I mean, that's every parent. Yeah. Now what do I do? Open the door. Yeah. You're right. That was a perfect thing to highlight. But overall, I love this film. And I'm probably going to say now it's my favourite trilogy.
Oh, 100%.
3 films.
100%.
I thought they did a phenomenal job. It's funny because James Gunn made these 3 films and are phenomenal, working with Marvel, working with Kevin Feige and the people at Marvel. James Gunn, away from Marvel, I've never actually been a fan. The stuff he's done with DC so far, and I know he's now taking that on, and maybe with a greater level of control, I'll get into it more, but like his version of Suicide Squad, etc., I just thought was too off the wall for me. It was like, no, I can't get into this.
No, I like Suicide Squad because of both of them, because of the ridiculousness of it.
Okay, see me, I was just kind of, no, you've lost me. It's not that so much you've jumped the shark. There is a shark. There's a guy. There's literally a shark running down the road. That lost me. So, but for Guardians, I can never thank him enough, because these 3 films are just so incredible, so special. And I think Marvel, MCU, everyone needs to look at this and go, let's look at our films that we've had come out in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And let's look at which ones have done well. And, okay, this is the tone. Because I think if you can emulate the tone, emulate getting villains that there are stakes, you're going to get back to where we were very quickly.
But I think, yes, I agree. However, they're never going to be able to recreate this formula.
No.
I think they maybe tried to do it with Ant-Man 3, which is why we got this wacky weirdness.
Yeah.
But it didn't land because we're not as emotionally invested in them as characters overall.
Luis wasn't there. And that's what it is. There was no recap at any point in that film, and without it, no, it's a failure.
No, but I think this is, the perfect way to cap off this trilogy with the Christmas special, and the shorts, which were so cute.
Yeah, I agreed.
But it's done, and I'm happy it's done. it's finished. We can draw a line under it.
Yep.
We've got something absolutely incredible that we can always go back to.
Agreed.
Without having James Gunn involved in any of these, I don't want it. I don't want it because it will lose something, and I'm content with the Guardians.
I'm good. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing a version of Peter going forward, because I think there's so much options and fun you can have with him being back on Earth and just being a little bit like fish out of water. I think you could have a feel there. And like you said, put him with Spider-Man and just, make the money. Just print it, because we're all going to be there.
Absolutely.
Well, that concludes our show. We've gone through the film. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed Guardians 3. It is now on Disney Plus, so check it out. We will be back when Marvel content comes around again. The Loki Season 2 trailer is available. If you've not seen that yet, go check it out. It's on our socials and the Marvel YouTube channel, etc. It looks very good. That's going to be in October, and we're going to break that down episodically, and you'll be joining us for that again, I believe, Kayleigh?
Absolutely.
Marvellous. That's what I like to hear. Until then, you say goodbye to all the lovely people.
Bye, lovely people.
And hopefully this outro won't make you cry.
Thank you for listening to the Stuff and Things podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Facebook or online. Simply search the Stuff and Things podcast to join in our conversation every week.